Shalom Aleichem, welcome to Defining Tanya. We've had a few weeks off. We're into Kuf. Last time we spoke about Kabbalah's oil Malchus Shemaim. Now we are into Kedusha and Klipa. This is these two terms, Kedusha and Klipa. We hear them get thrown around all the time, but to get a clear definition, Lefi, what I've been makabel from my Rebbe from Tanya, I think is super important. I've said many times that our job as Yidden is with Klippa. Our job is to know what Klippa is and to be mallet, to bring it up. And um, I've said before that uh, the way I understand things, a Yid who doesn't understand clearly what Klippa is like a carpenter who doesn't know what wood is. Literally, that is our job description. So we talk about it as a cover. Yeah, cleap is a cover, which is obviously what the cleaper of a fruit is, and that is probably the most obvious part of the moshul. And really everything's contained in that idea. But if as we flesh it out, we'll see that it's the moshul is just so perfect. It's amazing. Okay, so Kedusha and Klippa is referring to Kalim. Yeah, Kedusha is also a keli. It's a vessel. So on a conceptual level, just like you've got your body and your soul, yeah, a goof and a neshama, there's always keli and ore. Okay, so we're not talking about the ore, we're talking about the keli that contains the ore. Okay? So we've got two kinds of kalim on the extreme side. We're going to divide that into three. Two kinds of kalim is you've got transparent kalim and you've got opaque kalim. Like, well, that's transparent, but it's all funny. But a regular glass, that's opaque. Yeah, but a regular glass is transparent and a cup like this is completely opaque. Those are the two extremes. So the deepest Kleeper would be considered like a coffee mug, yeah? Where you have no idea where you have no idea even if there is ore inside. For all you know, the coffee cup might be empty, you don't know, yeah? Whereas by a transparent vessel, not only do you know what's going on inside very clearly, you're not even aware of the vessel. Just like when you're looking out of a window at a view, if the window is truly clean, the window takes up none of your attention. You're looking at the view. Without the window, you wouldn't be able to look at the view because it would be, I don't know, it'd be too the elements wouldn't allow it, it'd be too cold, it'd be too hot, whatever it is. But the window just allows you to experience the view safely. Yeah, but the window doesn't play a part in the view. You look through the window. Okay? So those are the two extremes. Now, Kedusha, there is Madregas in Kedusha, which is like Keneged, Kohen, Levi, and Yisrael. But we never really talk about Madregas in Kedusha. But in the Klippa, there's Madregas, very clear Madregas, and it's basically divides into two. Okay, you've got the lowest level Klippa, which is like the coffee mug where you don't see anything that's going on inside. Yeah, that's called Klippas Timaeus, Gimel Klippas Timaeus, and again, we don't break up the Inyan of Gimel Klippas Timaeus. Um, we talk about them as one, okay? Klippas Timaeus. And then you've got Klippas Noiga, which is called the Klippa Revis, the fourth Klippa, and it's the Mamutza, it's the middle ground between Kedusha and Klippa, between Kedusha and Klippas Timaeus. It's still a Klippa, very much a Klippa, but it's much more subtle, it's much more adin than the very has a gas, very
Thick or coarse.
coarse, yeah, thank you. It's much more adin, it's much more subtle than the very coarse Clepeus Timaeus. So the Clepeus Noiga is analogous to translucent glass, like milky glass, frosted glass. And there's madrigas in that. There's endless madrigas. There's the madriga where, you just see a little bit. And then there's Madrega where you can see very much, but but it's not clear. Okay, so um Klippa's Noiga draws attention to itself, and at the same time, it allows you to know what's going on inside. So those are the Madregas. Those are the two Madregas that divide into three. We've got Kedusha that is a transparent vessel that allows you to know the light inside. Almost it almost like dissolves. It's like it doesn't it doesn't allude to itself at all. It doesn't bring any attention to itself whatsoever. That's Kedusha. Like a Sefer Torah is Kadosh. Tefillin's Kadosh. Yeah, they immediately remind you, so to speak, of the Creator. Whereas a cow is not Kadosh. A cow is Klippas Noiga. It doesn't allude to the creator, but with a little bit of thought, it does allude to the creator, and you are able to so to speak extract the kedusha from it. So extract not the kedusha, extract the nitzitz, the ore from it, because the klipa is much more supple and soft and easy to get out. Whereas a pig, for example, which is klipas tameus, is it's bound up the or Eloki that causes the animal to be is so encased in Klippa that it's impossible to extract. So that's basically Klippa and Kedusha is something that alludes to the creator and something that conceals the creator. Now, the word Sitra Achra, which is very important also, Sitra Achra is the klali term, the general term for all of Klippa, whether it's Klippa's Noig or Klippa's Tameas. It's the whole thing is called Sitra Achra. It's a synonymous term. It alludes to a different aspect of the of Ra of the Klippa, but it's the umbrella term for all Klippa. Klippa gets more specific, like we said, Klippa's Noiga, Klippa's Tameas. You don't ever talk about Sitra Achra Noiga and Sitra Achra Tameas. You just talk about Sitra Achra, and that alludes to the fact that Klippa's Noiga is very much a Klippa. Okay, now what's the point of Klippa? Why did Hashem use Klippa to create the world? What's the inyan of Klippa? So Klippa um, like we said, conceals the creator, which means that Klippa gives us Bechira. And actually, the gematria of Klippa and Bechira is the same gematria. If it wasn't for Klippa, you would have no free will. With Simsum, now the difference between Simsum and Klippa is that Simsum is like an aperture of a camera, which it shuts down the amount of light, whereas Klippa closes down the quality of the light. So Klippa actually distorts the light. Klippa is also called Hestapanim. Yeah, it's again a synonymous term. Hestapanim and Klippa is the same idea. It's all so beautifully connected. We'll get back to why it's called Hestapanim in a minute, but that's what Hashem. But the yeah. So Tzimtzum is a shutting down of the amount of light. And Klippa or Hestapanim is a concealment of the light. It's like putting a veil. One is like opening the window and like the shutters of the window, like the wooden shutters of the window. And Klippa or Hestapanim is like some kind of translucent veil curtain that goes over the window that actually affects the light, not just the amount of light, it affects the quality of the light. And that's why it's called Hestapanim. Why? Panim means the actual mensch himself, yeah? You have a panim and you have an ocher. Yeah, that's the inyan of Paro. Paro was Oref. The words Oref is a rifa from the back. Yeah, you don't recognize someone from their back. And in photography, yeah, the only way that you can take a picture of the back of someone is if you've got a really impressive scene and graphics where there's something to keep the viewer's attention. The back of someone does not hold the viewer's attention. Yeah. Whereas the face of someone is a gilui of the panemius of the person, the actual person themselves. So panim always means the actual person, and achor means the back of the person, which is not the person. Okay. So now, why is it called Hester panim? Why is Klippa called Hester panim? It works beautifully. It's unbelievably everything's beautifully connected. Why? Because Klippa Simsum doesn't conceal God. In fact, the opposite. Simsum reveals God. Rav Has said to me famously, what was the greatest gili of God ever? Was the initial Tzimtzum. The initial Tzimtzum was the greatest Hisgalus of the Rabboni Shalom. Because without Tzimtzum, there could be no you, there's no room for anything else without Tzimtzum. So there would be you, but there wouldn't really be you because you would be um, existentially, I suppose you'd say, you'd be existentially subsumed within him, Yisbarach. Meaning that there would be you, but you wouldn't feel that there's you. Whereas Hester Panim, which is Klippa, gives you the feeling of you. That gives you Bechira. There's now two agendas. Remember, Bechira doesn't exist because you've got chocolate and you've got, or let's say you've got some really delicious bacon, yeah, and you've got a kosher, a very schwach kosher burger from some horrible place in wherever it is, yeah. That isn't what gives you bechira. The fact that there's chazir and Ada Hareda's beef. What gives you bechira is the fact that there's you. So it's not all of the reboy of this world. It's not the porn on the internet. It's not the way that your wife's annoying. It's not the way that that you overeat every night. It's not the fact that you can't concentrate and you're constantly wasting time. All of that is just that's just facets of creation. What gives you bechira is the fact that you feel that there's you. That's what Klippa does. Klippa gives you a sense of self. Now that plays out in this world of reboy, of fragmentation, etc., in different ways, but it's always the same thing. When a person looks at the wrong thing on the computer, he is it's not that he's looking at the wrong thing on the computer, he is worshipping a false god. That's what's going on. He's worshipping the god of himself, not the god of porn, the god of himself. Because some people might not be addicted to porn. That might not be their issue. They've got a problem with looking at comics on Shabbos. Yeah, they go online and they break Shabbos to look at comics. I know someone like that. Yeah, so he might not have an issue with pornography. He has an issue with the issues himself. Just like with the other guy, the issues himself. That's what Klippa does. Klippa gives you a sense of self. That's what Klippa's, and that sense of self from a Yid is from Klippa's Noiga. That sense of self from a regular human being is from Klippa's Timaeus. So why is it called Hester Panim? Because it conceals the face of God. Meaning if you could see his face, yeah, then you would have no Bechira. So it's Hester Panim, it conceals him. Which concealing him and having you, concealing him and feeling you is the synonymous, that's the same idea. As he conceals himself, that is like a dial. As he turns himself down, you get turned up. Your noise gets turned up. That's why Russia, by the way, is Oisius Rash, is noise. And that's why we scream by Hammond. We make noise by Hammond because that's the whole Inyan of Klippa, of Ra, is noise. Meaning a tzaddik is silent internally. There's no noise inside him. And if, on the ultimate level, he'd be totally silent, which means there's no him, there's no agenda, there's no person. There's just Ribbono Shel Olam. The more the noise gets turned up, yeah, or the more Hashem turns himself down, whichever way, yeah, the more Hester Panim there is, the more Klippa there is, the more sense of self you have. Now, the the concealment is again the listen to this. It's just amazing because KOOFa, well, what's the point of KOOFa? As we said, KOOFa's there to give you Bechira. So is KOOFa essential unto itself? And this is probably the most important idea of KOOFa is a means to an end. The Rebbeinu Shalom does not want Klippa for itself. He wants it for another purpose. What's that purpose? To give us Bechira. So Klippa is a means to an end, just like a peel of a fruit or the shell of an egg is totally and utterly a means to an end. You throw away the peel, you throw away the shell. Yeah, it's just so that you can get the orange. It's just so that you can get the egg. Yeah, otherwise you throw it away. It's a means to an end. Now, this and the concept of concealment are bound up together. Now, I've never heard anyone other than Rav Manis and Rav Shais Taub talk about this in regards to Klippa. I hear people use the word Klippa a lot, and they nearly always just talk about the fact that it covers up. But the reason why it covers up is because it's a means to an end. Okay, how does that work? Listen to this. This is just so obviously godly that there's two you have to get on the plane, yeah, to go skiing, because we've spoken before, yeah. You're going skiing, you're going to Colorado, and you need to get on the airplane to go skiing. Okay, skiing is a pleasure. That's an end unto itself. The plane is Clipper, it's a means to an end. I need to get on the plane to go to Colorado. I don't want to get on the plane. If there was another way of getting to Colorado, I'd do that, but there isn't. So I'm going to get on the plane and go to Colorado to ski. Now, when you see me skiing, which is an end unto itself, you learn something about me. Like you're not going to see, you're not going to see the Belzer Rebbe skiing, are you? That's not his style. He doesn't do that. He's into other stuff. Yeah. So what? When you see somebody involved in their pleasure, you learn something about them. It's a gilui of who they are. Somebody who's involved in a means to an end, you do not see who they are. You see me on the aeroplane. What do you learn about me? I'm going somewhere. That's it. Where to? I don't know. Do I know that you like? I might think that you like airplanes. I hate being on airplanes. So it's a concealment. When you do something that is a means to an end, it is a concealment. So those are the two most important concepts of Klippa and they're synonymous. They're the same idea conceptually. They cover and they're a means to an end. Or it covers and it's a means to an end. And that's the same idea. Because something that is a means to an end covers. It conceals. You don't know what the person's really doing. Like just another example. There's endless examples. It was a weird experience I had I was at the hospital I took one of my kids to the hospital, and I saw a girl there who was all tattooed up. Yeah, excuse me. She had all these tattoos, and it was just a funny thought I had. Like, I'm looking at assume that the tattoos she did because she loved. Don't Let's not assume she was doing it for some kind of weird reason. She just like when you say to somebody, "Why do you have tattoos?" They go, well, "I like it. I like it. I think it looks nice. I love it." Yeah, that's what they say. So tattoos are an end unto themselves. When you look at her tattoos, you learn something about the girl. Like, Mike, you have any tattoos? No? Nor do I. Yeah, so you learn something about, somebody with a tattoo, you learn something about them or who they were in the past or whatever it is, yeah? What about seeing someone in the hospital? What do you learn about them? Nothing. No one wants to be in a hospital. That's utterly a means to an end. See someone you see me in Magic Mountain, yeah? You learn something about me. I'm different to other rabbis. Most rabbis probably wouldn't go to Magic Mountain, yeah? So you learn something about me. Whereas if you see me in the hospital, you just you don't know anything about me. and you don't know if I like the hospital, if I don't like the hospital. You don't so that's the union of Kleeper and Kleeper and Emtsayim means to an end. So Kedusha is something that is an end unto itself. That is what so the mitzvahs are kadosh. Yeah, that is Am Yisrael's kadosh. And that is an end unto itself. Hashem, so to speak, had to create the world in the way that he did. I mean, however he did it, he could have done whatever he wanted, but he created it in the way that he did so that Am Yisrael could do Torah mitzvahs. That's the hiskashras of everything, and that is an end unto itself. There's madrigas as well of end unto itself, but that's so Klippa and Klippa being the um being the cover and being a means to an end are the same Inyan. Whereas Kedusha is an end unto itself. Um and I suppose we can also mention that Klippa is Lashon Clough. Clough is Oasis Klippa. I mean it's the same word. It's clough, as in what you write a Sefer Torah on. Yeah, so that is the whole Inyan of Klippa is that is what we call Dir B'Tachtoinim. The Dir B'Tachtoinim is the idea of raising the Klippa. See, I'm not sure if I'm not really sure how it works. If it's because see, Klippa's Loiga, I do know in the it's not that the actual Klippa, from what I understand it, Klippa's Klippa, yeah. The reason why Klippa's Noiga is translucent is because it has Kedusha or Toiv, Ma'urav, mixed in, so to speak, like merged with the actual walls of the Klippa. So it's not that the Klippa is different, it is different, but it's because there's good, there's Toiv, there's Kedusha merged with the Klippa. So when we do mitzvahs and we take Klippa. All the mitzvahs are predicated on Klippa. They all need Klippa to be fulfilled. Like you can't, talus and tefillin and tzedakah and ner Chanukah and writing a Sefer Torah and egla arufa and all the korbanos, all the mitzvahs need Klippa. They need some kind of goof. There needs to be some kind of cleaver that we're male. That's the whole point. That's what it's called. Dir b'tachtonim. Dir b'tachtonim is it means you're dir b'tachtonim means you're bringing Hashem down, but you could just as easily talk about bringing the world up. It's the same idea. It just depends on what perspective you're talking about. So the clough, a beautiful moshel for the whole idea is that it's called Ibn Oirus. You know what Ibn Oirus is? Ibn Oirus is the soaking of the hides, the animal hides, in limestone. I don't know. It's called Sid. In Hebrew, it's called Sid. Like I can't think of it. Call it limestone or something. I don't know. Some acidic thing, yeah, and you soak it in there for like 24 hours or longer, and it starts to become like clough. It needs more work after that, but that's part of the ibrid, that's part of the working of the hide. And this is really the idea. So you take the clough, you soak it in this acidic mashka, and eventually with some more processing, etc., you can write a Sefer Torah on it. And the oasis of the Torah are given kiyum through the clough, through the klipa. So it's through the klipa. It's so in a sense, when we're doing Torah mitzvahs, we're so to speak we're writing kedusha onto clough, onto klipa. And therefore the clough, so the clough becomes kadosh. You're not allowed to touch the clough of a Sefer Torah. Yeah, you're not allowed to touch it. You have to cover it. It's mamash kadosh. So the actual klipa becomes kadosh through that, and that's a beautiful moshel for that. Is when we go to the mikveh in the morning. Yeah, that is called ibud oirus. You schlep your goof out of bed. Yeah, you're just a big fat piece of meat in the morning. You soak yourself in the water. That supples you up. That makes the skin, the hide of your behemoth more receptive to Kedusha's reality. And then you go to Chakras davening and you start to write the Oisius of Torah onto your goof. That's the avoid of the Yid, is that you prepare the goof so that you can actually write the Torah onto the goof. And that's the same idea as the cloth and the Sefer Torah and the Klippa and anyway, yeah, Michael, you want to say something?
Is that only relate to Klipa Noga?
Sorry?
Does that only apply to Klipas Noga?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Cleavage to Meis is not compatible with kedusha bichlal. You can't write like you can't take a tummy animal. Just the halacha reveals that as well that you need to have a kosher animal that you write on. You can't write a sefer Torah on the chazir on the skin of a chazir. Um, and what was I going to say? 1 minute. Oof, gone. Um, I can't remember what I was going to say. Okay. Oh yeah, yeah, that was gonna say. Yeah, so how do we fix the Cletus Timaeus? So I mean, there's a thing you could say like the home help that you have, yeah, when they eat chazir and they come and they kaddish your house, they work, they help you with Shabbos and stuff like that. That's a shtickle. That's Makadish Klippas Timaeus. But the real way that we deal with Klippas Timaeus is through Klippas Noiga, meaning the way that we the way see Klippas Timaeus will just vanish the minute we are doing what we're meant to be doing with Klippas Noiga. That's why it's called the Klippa Revis. It's the highest Klippa, so it goes Kedusha, Klippas Noiga, Gimel Klippas Timaeus. And the Klippas Timaeus is Yonik, derives its sustenance from Klippas Noiga. And that's why Chaim Volodya in Nefesh Chaim says at the beginning of the Sefer that the when a Yisrael has one bad thought, yeah, a bad thought that he entertains, not that gets spat into his mind, that he invites in and entertains, yeah, um, does more damage than Titus Harasha taking the Zoyna into the Kodesh Kadoshim on a Sefer Torah, Rahman al yeah? I couldn't think of anything worse. And but that doesn't do the same damage. That's not even comparable in any way, shape, or form to a Yid entertaining a, a forbidden thought. Why? Because the Yidden are at that point of Klipus Noiga. So when we give in to temptation or when we do Avera basically, what that does is it siphons the koyach of kedusha into klipas tameus. And so we'll finish with this. We'll spend another 5 minutes, and we'll just finish with this moshel that we've said many times. But we'll say again, is the moshel of the stream. You remember, Michael? We spoke about the stream. Yeah, this is a very important idea, and this puts it all into perspective. Is you have this perfect, pristine stream coming down the mountain, yeah, perfect clean water. You and someone, by the way, someone sent me a message the other day telling me about the difference between the Kinneret and the Dead Sea. See, the Kinneret is like the beginning, and the Dead Sea is like the end. I think they're basically connected by the Yarden. I'm pretty sure that they, but the Kinneret is sweet water. Yeah, I mean we drink from the Kinneret, and the Dead Sea is it's called the Dead Sea. It's just completely dead. Why? So we get this from the, I never said this before in the Moshul, but we'll add this in now, is that the Klippas, the stream is Kadosh. Yeah? Someone comes along and they scratch out a little channel so that the water from the stream is siphoned off and it collects in the meadow, and the meadow becomes a swamp. That's what a swamp is. A swamp is a waterlogged meadow that spend enough time and it becomes a swamp. And alligators and crocodiles and mosquitoes and all kinds of disgusting creatures move in, and it smells and it's disgusting and it's dangerous, etc. Yeah. So that idea of scratching away a little channel and allowing the water to siphon from the stream to the collecting pool. Yeah, that's the Klippus Noiga. That's Klippus Noiga. The Klippus Timaeus is the pool, the dirty swamp that just swallows the water. And why is the moshel so perfect? Because that is what kedusha is. Yeah, receiving, giving, receiving, giving, receiving, giving, like a stream. All a stream does, every moment of the stream receives and gives, receives and gives, receives and gives. Nothing. It's not about itself. Everything it receives is to give. But the swamp, yeah, on the opposite side of the spectrum, just receives. It doesn't give. If it gave, it wouldn't be a swamp, it would be a river. A swamp means it just receives the water. That's Timaeus, that's Clippus Timaeus. So you've got the way that we get rid of Clippus Timaeus is by returning Clippus Noiga back to Kedusha. By returning Klipa's Noiga back to Kedusha, which is compatible with Kedusha, it cuts off that channel that connects Kedusha to Klipa's Timaeus. And then what happens to the swamp? It dries up and reverts back to a meadow. That's it. So we don't need to be involved in Klipa's Timaeus. Bichlal, the Klipa's Timaeus receives its tikkun from when the Yidden fix Klipa's Noiga, because it starves Cleopas Timaeus of its life force. Because the swamp, the disgustingness of the swamp, yeah, is utterly dependent on the moisture from the stream. That's what makes the swamp the swamp. The minute the moisture dries up, it's a meadow again. So the disgustingness of the swamp, the disgustingness of the Cleopas Timaeus is the fact that it has, so to speak, hijacked the ore, the with an aleph, the ore from the stream which is Kadosh. And that's the moshel for the Kinneret and I suppose the Yarden and the Dead Sea. And that's the idea. So we'll just say it very quickly in summary, and then we'll go. Is that we've got really two categories: kedusha and klipa. It's always referring to the kli. The kedusha is an end unto itself and is a transparent kli. It reveals what's on inside. Yeah, meaning it conceptually it means it's available. The ore inside is available. Klippa divides into two, which is also called Klippa Klali. The general reference of Klippa is synonymous with the term Sitra Achra, but Klippa divides into two, gives us two nuances or two madrigas, Klippas Timaeus and Klippas Noiga. Klippas Noiga, all Klippa is a means to an end, but Klippas Noiga is compatible with Kedusha. And it's through Klipa's Noiga that the energy from Kedusha, Rahman al-Islam, can end up going to Klipa's Timaeus. So through the Yidden being Makadesh, the Klipa's Noiga, the Klipa's Timaeus just goes away. And that is Kedusha and Klipa, Bezrat Hashem. Next week we will talk about Rosh Tus. We'll get to Reish, and we're nearly done. Hashem. Okay, Chazak v'amatz.